Welcome to another Money Magic podcast. We've been disturbed by load shedding twice, but luckily it's within a short space of 5 minutes. So welcome to another episode of the Money Magic podcast. Today, I really have a special guest. Her name is Lebo Pule, and Lebo and I have known each other for 10 years. Just a quick background. Lebo was one of the people that discovered me. I say discovered 2 years ago, and she really started sharing my work with people. So really appreciate that. But I've also had the beautiful privilege of being able to talk to her in the back end about her money journey and to also share about my journey. So this is quite exciting, and we've been laughing beforehand. So welcome, Lebo.
Thank you so much. I'm hardly ever the guest, so I don't know what to do with myself. I always feel like taking over. I'm always the host.
No, I love
thank
it.
You for the invite. I appreciate. Yeah.
No, thank you for saying yes. Before we even start, please tell us, who are you? What do you do? And most importantly, how do you describe yourself as a soul on this life journey?
Beautiful questions. Okay, so practically as a human being, I am a life coach. I'm an author. I'm a podcast host like you. I'm a mother of very, very old people. The baby is 16. Can you believe I have a baby that's 16?
Wow.
And Tao is 16. And as a soul, I believe I'm here to bring a bit of light in every corner, to brighten the corner wherever I find myself. So I believe I'm one of the light workers in the world. And that finds expression in my books, in my teachings, in my interactions with you. I always like to joke around at home and say, I am the light. Yeah, so I think I'm one of the light workers soul-wise, yeah.
Oh, I love that. Before we got cut off, you had mentioned that you are moving your work into psychospiritual coaching.
Yeah.
I have actually never heard of that term. I think I know what it means,
Yeah.
but please explain to us what that is.
Yeah, psychospirituality is a combination of therapy, that is talk therapy, and a lot of body work. And the reason I call it psychospirituality is because, or rather, the reason therapy alone does not take people all the way. I mean, you and I know we get people who have been in therapy or are currently in therapy or therapists themselves, and God bless psychologists. But the reason it doesn't quite work and it doesn't take people all the way is because it's very much here in the head, and it's very talk therapy, and it's also based on the past. So when you introduce the spirituality part of it, we are now introducing the root chakras, the chakra system into the whole healing and coaching, getting people in the body. And I mean, I'm a guinea pig of that work, because one of the biggest, excuse me, Van, one of my biggest challenges was being able to get inside the body. And as I'm doing it, as I'm deepening there, I find that I do that for my clients as well. And you know, spirituality for women is in the body, because the body is where the emotional body lives. And through the emotional body, you connect to the spiritual body, which is all embodied. So that's what psychospirituality is. So we do a combination of talk, like, okay, what's the issue? What's going on? What's the blocks? What's the challenges? And then we find them in the body, and we find ways to release them, either through journaling, lots of meditation, lots of feeling, which is deeply uncomfortable for a lot of high achieving women, you know. So that's what I.
Yes. Ooh, I love that. Hey,
Yeah.
really exciting stuff. So let's dig into your money journey, because I feel like this is something that I'm really fascinated about.
Yeah.
because I've shared my money journey with you, you've shared with me, but like I've also been able to see. Let's start with my favorite question.
Yeah.
What does money mean to you? If an alien arrived on planet Earth, how would you define money to them?
Oh my God. Money for me, I don't know why this picture comes to mind, but I love it. And it's going to be weird for others. I don't know, but these are Money Magician podcast listeners, so it's not going to be weird. It feels like a sumo wrestler. It's funny. I'm small, and then money is this sumo wrestler specifically that is just wrestling with me every day. So that's my truth. Because we're going to tell the truth again. I would love to say money is energy, money, it loves me. But for me, money is really, really, really hard on me. So if I were to tell an alien, I would stand there in my tiny body and I would point to this gigantic person and say, this is money. And it is always, always wrestling with me, not to kill me, but to strengthen me somehow.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Sure. I love that. I love that. Thank you for being truthful, because I think sometimes we think that we need to make it flowery, right?
Yeah.
And I share with people that my very first thing when I created the Spirit of Money meditations, my very first vision of money and my spirit of money was a clown in black and white. And money, I hate clowns. That's the first thing.
Wow.
So money as a clown, for me, it was like how my subconscious was also perceiving money and energetically how I was approaching money. Firstly, it was the fear. And then the second thing was like literally like this is a thing that laughs at me or tries to make me a laughing stock or something.
I love that imagery. And this is the thing that happens whenever I talk to you, because honest to God, I have never thought of money as a wrestler until now. And now what I want to do, because I think it's probably a download, I will Google what sumo wrestling is about and what's the end game, because then maybe it will shift something in my psyche and all that. But I love that yours was a clown, because clowns are scary and funny. It's like, yeah, you know,
right? So this is why I make people do the Spirit of Money meditations and the Money Magic course, because I'm like, it's really, really important to see how we view money. There's a way of how we would like to explain money, right? And love to describe money. But it's not always that. And last one before we move on. Another one of my Spirit of Money is, funny enough, was what is it? A Somalian pirate. That's how I know money. So I feel like some very, very interesting ways that money comes through. And even now, like when I do that meditation, there'll be different ways that I've seen money. I've also seen it as a goddess. I've seen it as like the goddess Kali. I've seen it as Saraswati. It's been very, very interesting. So I think money is so many things.
I understand it, because another one, apart from the sumo wrestler, another one is a very strict father for me. Money is a strict, like the father that says, where is the 5 cents?
Yeah.
He wants the entire change. You have to account for everything. So very, very, very hardcore dad. That's how.
So I'm going to actually go from the strict father, because as you know, like I'll just abandon questions based on what spirit is telling me. So the minute you said that, I just could ask about that. So I wanted to ask, so based on your past relationship with money and where you've come with money, can you think about where that vision may be coming from? And maybe start by sharing your relationship with money, which is just your journey, even as an entrepreneur.
Yes. Maybe let's, so My money journey is just an interesting one, Van, and this is why I both like and don't like talking to you, because now I feel like I have to go back and journal. So I'll start with early days and then my mid-20s and then my entrepreneurial and sort of where I am now. So when I was a little girl, I used to always have money. And the reason I had money is because I was always sent around. So I was always known as that child in the entire street that would go to a shop for maybe an elderly lady or that would help out somehow. But I was always available to help. And when I come back, whether I ask or not, I never actually used to ask. I would immediately get change back. They would give me 5 rand back or 2 rand. Sometimes they'd even make me food. There was this other Gok Mahatebe, who would always give me 2 rand and made sure that I sit down and I have a slice of bread and tea. And mind you, it's not like I'm coming from a family that's poor. Both my parents were working, we're fine. I just attracted money that way. But I now realize as I'm talking to you that there was always an exchange. I always worked for it somehow. You know, it would never come. And then you fast forward to my late teens to early 20s. I started working early. I started working at 18 at First National Bank. If you don't know what First National Bank is, it's also known as FNB for the young ones. They might not know what First National Bank is. And for the first, I'm 18 years old and I earn more than my dad. Ah, there it is.
No.
Oh my word, there it is. I earn slightly less than my mom, but far more than my father. And very, very interesting. And I think 2 or 3 months after I worked at FNB, my salary was stolen. I don't know if I told you the story before. I don't know if so I needed to draw, because when you work for the bank, you get paid on the 20th, and my mom used to get paid on the 25th. So my mom, with her own money issues, on the 20th, she'd always say, go draw 1,000 rands and give it to me. And then on the 25th, I'll pay you back. So that was just that arrangement. So I remember I was earning 1,800, which is a lot of money for 1994 for an 18-year-old.
Yes.
For whatever reason, I went inside the bank and I withdrew quite a lot of it. I think I withdrew 1,500, which left 300 rands inside. And as I was walking out, I was robbed then. I don't know why I didn't tell you the story, but I feel like I have. I was robbed. My entire salary was taken out of me. And I was robbed in a very tricky way, you know, where this guy talks to me and the other one is talking this side, and then I'm all confused, and then they're grabbing the bag. And yeah, so that memory for me, I can't believe I don't have a lump in my throat now, because for the longest time, it used to just break me. So that was one major issue where I lost a lot of money. And then I took that memory and I probably banked it somewhere. Because I was a job hopper, because I mean, working was not really my thing. So I would job hop, and each job I would earn more and more and more, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, by the time I was 22, I was earning 6,000 rands at this IT firm. I was a secretary. So all this to say, for some reason, money coming in is not an issue. It's not a problem. The spending part of it, I don't know if we have time. Because I like to talk about receiving money, but I hardly ever talk about spending it, because I hardly ever know how I spend it then. So in my mid-20s, mid to late 20s, I decide, this working thing is not working for me. Let me start my own business. And I started business in office furniture. Why office furniture? Because that's the last company I worked for. And I could see that, all you need to do is to talk to a manufacturer and then have a client and be the middleman, you know. And I'm a great salesperson. And true to form, I start exquisite interiors, and within the first 2 months, I have secured 2 very big deals. One was a 650,000 office furniture deal at a company called City Power, the one that's busy load shedding people. And then the other one was around 200,000 at Randwater. Why I got those clients is because it's clients I took with from the previous company. So they were my clients. It's that whole thing of when you live with your customers and all that. So that's why it was that easy. But little did I know that a turnover is not profit, and management of money is just a whole other extreme sport. But to fast forward, after year 2 of really doing well in terms of getting really big tenders, I mean, I think the biggest tender I got was 900K. And it was with the National Intelligence Agency. Don't tell them, told them. They bought massive amounts of furniture. And why I got those deals, honestly, it's because of BEE, to be quite honest. And I was a maverick. I was this Black woman in an office furniture industry with my BEE status intact, with my tax clearance intact. It was easy money.
Yes.
Where the problem was in as much as I was getting those big tenders, my margins, oh my word, I would put as little as 5%, because it was bad. At the time, I was a kid, come on. I didn't see that it's a problem. I just thought, as long as I keep getting deals and then I will pay a supplier. I mean, one of the most interesting examples would be 100,000 order.
Yes.
Would mean that to the suppliers, to the desk people, the chair people, the dustbin people, I would have to pay the whole 90 or 95,000. What's mine is 5,000 rands.
Oh my gosh.
So as an entrepreneur, I was a bad entrepreneur. But I would get deals because government wants the cheapest. So I would give them the cheapest. So that was mistake number 1. Margins were very low. Mistake number 2, I wouldn't even pay my clients on time. Because I'm busy, living. I have a big house, I have 3 cars, I have, I'll pay them.
Oh my gosh.
I'll pay them, I'll pay them with the other invoice.
Yeah.
If I'm laughing telling this story, I used to cry. I used to be crying. So problem was margins were low. And then because margins are low, I'm now eating into the supplier's money, hoping that I will bankroll it. When that pays, I'll pay this one. When that pays, I'll pay this one, which then it worked until money stopped coming. Because, there comes a time in a business where there's no business. Like there's no tenders, there's just nothing. So now you have a deficit of, I actually owe 300,000, and it's not coming to pay, the others. And I mean, within a few months, someone started coming in, people wanting their money. My furniture got repossessed. I was kicked out of the office. And then the big one eventually was when I couldn't pay APSA for their bond, and I lost my house. And I was 29.
Thank you for sharing that, Lebo. And I can't imagine what it's like with the emotions going through that, because I just know being in debt and having to deal with that, like for me, the biggest emotions were just like panic, anxiety, shame. You just don't know what you're going to do. But then it led you onto another journey. Can you please tell us the journey that this led you on? So now you've realized you've gone through this entrepreneurial journey. What were the next steps for you? How did you get through those emotions? House being repossessed, all that.
Wow, geez. firstly, even before losing the house, I just want to talk to the emotions of it, because probably someone is going through something similar, maybe not at that magnitude. So the moment I realized that I'm not getting any money in, I'm unable to supply. Even if I'm getting an order, I can't supply because I owe the supplier, and he's not gonna supply chairs when I still owe them. So anxiety for me, it showed up as inability to sit still. I remember, and I mean it literally, I would never sit down on a couch. I don't know why, because, well, now that in hindsight, and I know what I know, I felt like if I'm sitting, my problems would catch up with me, because then I would be thinking about them. So I would always pace. I was always pacing. I developed a very, very deep fear of knocks at the door, because when someone knocked at the door, it would either be a sheriff of the court giving me the summons, or some other supplier who found where I lived. Yo, Van, now I'm reliving these things.
I'm so sorry. You don't have to talk about it if you want to.
Yeah. And I remember loving the night when the sun sets. Oh my God, that was like the best, because then I would sleep. I know when some people, when they have problems, they can't sleep. I slept. It's just the day that I couldn't face. Yeah, no. I would sleep early. I would sleep at 7. The moment it's dark, I would make sure my kids, and I had Sulu and Tebe then, I would make sure they've eaten, everything is fine. I'm in the bedroom, fast asleep. It's the day that I couldn't face. The morning, ooh, yeah. So anxiety became the order of the day. But after all that, after the house was taken, and it was very clear that I have to go back home, and home is in Alex. You've been to my home when my mom died.
Yes, I have.
So you can imagine moving from a 3-bedroom with a pool and a big garden to a house, a Lokshini. Yeah, fine. It's not deep, Alex. But it's still a house that is smaller than what I had. And what kept me going, it's funny because I was thinking about her even this morning, my mom. I remember my mom saying to me, you know, one thing, you are lucky because you're very young. I mean, I'm 29, turning 30, around there, 30, 31. You can recover. You can find this. We are here. You have a home. So, shalalana. So having a roof and a supportive parent was already 50% of the anxiety dealt with. The other thing was that because I couldn't sit still and feel and deal, I was busy looking for a job. Yeah, I mean, also, I mean, think about it. I need to pay bills. I need to take care of my kids. Yes, I'm at home, but I need to support. And true to form, lucky Lebo, I got a job, a contract job at social development, which paid relatively well. So I could push some debts. Some suppliers wrote the debts off, lucky again. You know, we don't realize how people writing a debt off to be such a gift, you know, to be such a blessing.
Yes.
One of the biggest write-off was about 110, and I'll never forget that amount, 110,000 point something. Brian Strang, a man called Brian Strang, who I owed the most, decided to write it off. And he said to me, I'll never forget this. He said, what you are going through is payment enough.
Yeah.
So grow from this, learn from this, and be a better person.
Sure.
And you know why that makes me choke up is because Brian was the only white man, white firm that took me at face value. That said, okay, black girl, you have tenders, you can sell. We will supply you at 30 days. We don't want deposit up front. We'll give you credit. And guess what? He's the one that I did not pay the most. Yeah. We reconciled. I don't know if you read the book, but I wrote
Yes, I did,
letter.
of
I
course.
wrote the love letter. He returned the love letter, and that's when we met. And he said, "No, I'm writing it off because what you're going through is already enough. You are learning your lessons. There's no need for me to chase this money. It's gone. It's gone. You know." I'm probably, I mean, I didn't realize now then that he was quite spiritual because he mentioned karmas and stuff, that I'm probably paying my own karma, you know, you were paying yours. So yeah, and that was the biggest debt. The others, oh shame, they chased me. Oh, they chased me. Oh, they were garnishing orders and all sorts of things. They got their money back. But then to answer your question directly, I think my mom, and the fact that in as much as I was such a bad entrepreneur, I used to, parallel to my business, I used to always be reading these spiritual books, you know, Body Conversations with God, Body Ian Levanzen, all the things that you and I know, you know. And I think they came to now start to make sense when I was on the rock bottom and I read again. And tried to apply some of the principles and to claw my way out of this shame that I had put myself in. Yeah.
Let's talk about the books and how they helped you. So I love what you just said because you actually went within. You talk about your book, ask me if I read it. I did. I read alone. And and I actually read it the first time we met in person.
Yes.
The very next that evening, I went home, took the book, and read it from cover to cover.
And you gave me feedback the next day.
Yes, I was just like, this is unbelievable. It's so fascinating. But I love what you said about looking for a job. And this ties to the going within, right? Because I did the exact same thing when I was $60,000 in debt. Except I did not have that luck of finding a job.
Yeah.
Nothing shifted until I actually sat down and went within. And the only time things shifted in my life, this is no joke, was when I decided to write my first book, Heart, Mind, and Money. I have never gotten a job offer. And
sorry.
I wrote Heart, Mind, and Money. I'm like, what? And that is the funniest thing about me is that my work, like the things that I desire, have come through my writing, which was funny enough because it was the one thing that I never wanted to do because I believed I would starve to death if I finally became a writer. Because which writer makes a living? In my head, I'm like in my 20s, which writer makes a living being a writer? So I tried investment banking. I'd go to all these interviews, make it to the end, and just never get the job. So I get that.
There's a reason for all of that. It's funny because on my sorry, this was gonna sound like a side note, but it's not. In my circle, my audio teaching circle called Coaching Notes, I've just finished doing a series called The Dark Night of the Soul. And one of the things I say is that you could be the most qualified. I mean, then you had an MBA, for crying out loud, and an honors in accounting, and you'd not get employed. And so the point is, when you are in the dark night of the soul, I always compare it, like, think of it as night, like it's midnight. And when you are hoping that you'll open your eyes and the sun would shine, it won't. You are still in the night. You have to still go through 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 a.m. and so on. So no matter what you did, you would never get a job. But I suppose I was in a different cycle because, funny enough, I had 2 offers. And I took the government one because it was a longer contract and it was closer. The other job was on the other side of, it was in Pretoria. And it paid better, but Joburg was easier for me to take that job. So I've never, interestingly, never been unemployed. Even in my worst times, I've never been an unemployed person. Like I would get a job.
We always change, fam. Like always. Like even now, I'm telling you, me as me right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't done it, but I imagine that I could draft a CV and someone would be like, no, you can't get a job. Someone actually, I once got refused a job because someone thought that I was going to come in and take over their position. I'm like, how, fam? Like, I barely have an employment history. I'm trying to build employment history.
I don't have a corporate story at all.
So now you have the job, now you're starting to pay back the debt. And I know your biggest journey then became going within and understanding
Yes.
what was happening. And that's when you started to understand about the margins and started to understand your story better. Can you tell us what that was like?
Yeah, so I think getting an income that was permanent, because soon after social development, I was headhunted. I mean, the job thing is real with me here. I was headhunted by Regenesis. I don't know if you know Regenesis. It's like a business
The
school.
university.
The university, yeah. I worked there for 3 years. It's actually the longest I was employed. And the reason it was the longest I was employed is because the CEO is a former monk. So he's a meditator, a yogi, and all that. And this brings me to going within. So I stay at social development for about a year. The pay is good. I'm able to pay my bills. I don't have a bond. I'm paying back. No, my car was paid off. The TES was paid off, and it was the only thing that was never repossessed. I mean, that car. Every time I see a TES, I like bow to it. That you were there for me, dear TES. It was red. So the going within part never happened immediately because I was just in the spiral of I need to pay, I need to live, and I was also busy pretending to people that no, I didn't go under. No, this is not a big deal. Yeah, business failed. I didn't realize how deep the wound was. I mean, one of the examples I use is like going bankrupt because I was sequestrated. You know, there was a whole sequestration process with an attainment that happened. It was like I was shot like 4 times in the chest, and then I fell, and then I stood up, and then I said, oh, there's blood. And then I washed the dress and I put on a new dress and I continue walking. So that's how I did it. I did not realize that I was shot really, really badly. I realized that when I joined Regenesis, that was 2008. And Regenesis is a completely different space. It's a business school, yes, but it's led by a former monk, like I say. So there are meditation rooms, there are prayer rooms, there are time to talk and connect and do some kumbaya. And I remember speaking to Marco. His name is Marco Saravanya. He's from Croatia. And he said, so you went under. And he said to me, you know why you were employed? And I said, no. It's like, no, because I heard your story that you were an entrepreneur and you lost it. Generally, corporate does not employ former entrepreneurs because they're crazy and it's a problem. You know, they're just a problem. So the reason I took is because you reminded me of me. And I wanted to see you. And I told them that I want to see her when she's employed. I don't want to be part of the interviews. I want to see her. So we were sitting and he said, so how much did you lose? What did you lose? And I told him the house, the car. And it's like, and you talk like this. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, you are not feeling this at all. I'm like, what do you mean? And he walked away. He said, one day you'll feel it. When do I feel it, Ben? I feel it when I found, because I mean, when I was at social development, I was still at home. Then I get the job at Regenesis, which paid double. So I'm thinking, nah, I can live home. I can get my own apartment. I find an apartment, beautiful apartment in Boksburg. And for the first time ever in my entire life, I live alone. Because what my mother said was, you know what, the children are stabilizing here. We are managing with them. They are also somehow managing to keep us alive. Because, you know, all my children stayed at home. So it was my mom, my dad, me, and my kids. And she's like, no, don't take the kids. Otherwise, it's just the two of us. Let them stabilize. I don't know, with your journeys, next thing was a food, and then you are dead. Let the kids stay until you're stabilized. And then for the first time, I'm living on my own. And everything starts bubbling up. I mean, I remember just my body feeling completely uncomfortable. In that, because I'm a jumper, I like to jump out of the body. I like to numb with wine. I don't like to feel very much. But when you are alone and you're from work and you are in a shower and suddenly you start crying for no reason, something is definitely happening. I remember loving the dark. I would go to work and I would come back and I would not switch on the TV or the radio, and I would want it quiet. And the quieter it is, the more the tears come up. And this is where, I mean, for your listener, if they haven't figured it out, this is where and how I started writing the book.
Yeah.
So I not only felt the loss of my house, the loss of my security, the loss of money, I felt everything else, I had kids. I had my daughter at 16. I remember just remembering that, oh, I actually had to grow up too quickly. That was traumatic, having a child that was traumatic, working that early. Oh, someone stole my money. I was robbed. I lost my home, like for the first time. And this is 2 years later, mind you. It's hitting me that I lost my home.
Yeah.
And yeah, the tears never stop. I remember crying without exaggeration. I would cry every night for, I think, a good 3 months. Every night. Every night. Obviously not boo-hoo-hoo all the time. And some days it would just be just emotions. And the Lebo that you're speaking to now, honest to God, was born in that house, in that apartment, alone. So I'm saying this to say, if someone is going through something really traumatic financially and they don't feel it, it's okay. One day you will, because I didn't feel it immediately. To me, it was like, hey, get a job. Until I had to feel it. Yeah. So I spent my entire 30s trying to deal with it, which is, I mean, some of the ways that I dealt with it was all those social media posts, the thing that made me Lebo Pule, sharing, teaching. As I felt, I shared. As I felt, I shared. And yeah, slowly. What is surprising me, even if you're not going to ask that, is how long it takes to purge. It takes long, like it irritates me how long it takes, how many layers are there. And I mean, when you start doing your ancestral work, it then shows you another side of things. Yeah.
No, it takes long. And I guess my next question is, because it takes long, some people want to kind of circumvent it. Some people just go, F it, this is too long. I've even had people say to me, you can't spend so long healing, and just like, it takes as long as it takes. So
They came
what
to the wrong planet.
So how did you hold yourself through all that, through the length of time that it took to heal?
Oh, what a good question. What a good question. I think because I'm a great student, I might be a great teacher, but I'm a great student in that I look up to other people who've had similar, maybe not money related, but similar journeys. And it always helps to compare in that sense, where you look at, and I'm going to use just a big example just to make it clear. I look at people like Iyanla, and I understand Iyanla's journey and how long it took her. And even now, as a master that she is, she's still battling with some stuff. So what kept me going were my teachers. was the actual work, because the more you work, the more refined you get, the more purified you get, and the more you see progress, even though progress does not show up in your bank account, because I really wish my bank account had many, many zeros right now, but it shows up in other ways. You know, it shows up in the light that you carry, in how you are received, in the people you are serving. It's so fascinating that our wounds become some form of remedy for other people. So the healing process, what kept me going, is that my healing heals others in a way. My journey somehow is a lighthouse for someone else who's sort of stuck in the sea and it's dark. So it serves its own purpose, if you know what I mean. So if I were to say, you know what, this is too long, I'm going to get a job and pretend to be a government employee, and I apologize to government employees. We love you. See you. We see you. You are our clients. And just not shine, not share, not teach. I think I would regress, and I think it would not work. So what keeps me going is the fact that I actually share the journey with, which is the beauty of sharing, if you think about it.
Yes. Wow, I love that answer. What a beautiful answer. Um, and I guess the next question that probably everyone is asking, so how do you start a business after all this? You see this and you decide, you've gone through all this with entrepreneurship and you decide, I am going to start a business again. And I see it, myself included, like my first business, many of my businesses went under it, but the one before Wealthy Money really, that one took me out, shame. I'm not gonna lie, it took me out. That's how Hard-Minded Money was born. That's the one that like got $60,000 in debt. There's one that takes you out.
Yeah,
but how do you the one that like flattens you where you're like, yeah, no, this is entrepreneurship, hey? But how did you decide to go, yeah, no, I'm ready for this? And how do you not get triggered?
So how do I start a business after that? Firstly, you'll recall that when I was a little girl, when I was young, I used to job hop. So I knew in my heart of hearts that I am not an employee person. It's just not my path. That being employed is something that I do to remedy a situation. And I'm sorry to put it that way, but I took a job at Government and Regenesis to just recover financially. And even Marco said it to me, Marco, the Regenesis CEO, that, yeah, you want to leave us soon because, you know, you're not the type. So when that time comes, please let me know. Don't let it not be a surprise. And true to my word, I actually let him know months before that I'm going to leave. So why did I leave? Because I felt like there's still an entrepreneur in me. So I still wasn't getting the lesson that, yeah, you must be on your own, but don't do the business thing. That's business as in cold economic business is not your stuff, Lebs. You're not good at that. But I went ahead and I did it. I remember I started a company called LPBN, Lebo Pule Business Networks. Very briefly, I wanted to help small businesses understand the process of sales. And I saw a gap in the market that a lot of Black startups will prioritize everything else except for sales. And I was very good at sales and I wanted to teach them sales. I wanted to also create sales teams for them. So for an example, Wealthy Money, I would create a team for you. I'd recruit maybe 3 young people, train them in sales, train them in product knowledge, and monitor their sales. I mean, it was a brilliant business idea. I'm telling you, it's brilliant.
That's so needed.
I know. Every time I tell people about that, like, but start it again. You are so much better now. Maybe you can. That's what I wanted to do. So that was one pillar. The second pillar was I would have a sales institute. So the whole school thing has always been with me, where I train people on selling to Black people specifically, because we don't respond the way white people do. And we also don't sell like white people. I don't know. I mean, I've been in my work career, I've always been in sales, and I always found selling to be a little on the aggressive side. And I had a modality of making it persuasive without being aggressive. So I was going to have that. Then that business did not explode. It did not implode. It was a stillbirth. Like I made absolutely no money. I think I had all of 3 clients who paid me a retainer that was ridiculous. That was small because you know I have a problem with charging, which we'll talk about. I charged like a ridiculous amount of money. I charged to pay rent and to buy food, I think. I did not charge to build an institution.
Oh,
And
man.
I think, yeah, and it took me, I think, a good 2.5 years to realize that this is not the one as well. It's just not working. What was the problem? Entrepreneurs did not use me. They didn't understand what I'm talking about. Instead, they wanted me to go sell for them.
Oh,
So
I
it
don't
was
understand.
a brilliant idea. Maybe it wasn't its time. I don't know. It just never brought money. Not as, I mean, gosh, LPBN was such a frustrating. So it was a different struggle, which I wrote about in book 2. Because my second book is about the entrepreneurial journey, and I go into details of why LPBN didn't work. And then I wrote a book. So parallel to it not working, I'm busy writing the book.
Yes.
Luckily, the book did so well, which kept me going and kept me afloat for a while. And slowly, I morphed into teaching. All along, Vangile, I am teaching anyway on the socials. I'm teaching every day. I'm coaching people for mahala, like mahala. A person would call me for coffee and pour out their heart, and all I would want is, yeah, as long as you pay for the lunch. I mean, imagine.
God, Lebo. Okay, now that you brought that up, can we talk about that? By the way, this happened to me a lot.
Okay.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this. I was in a relationship and I was actually engaged like years and years ago.
Yes, I remember it.
And like my fiance then would constantly be like, do you realize that you're coaching people? Do you realize that people are calling you to coach them? And we'd have such fights where he'd be like, this is taking away from our time. This is it. And I would not see it. I was like, no, these are my friends. Then something really fascinating started to happen, right? Because obviously, if someone is in your head the whole time, I was like, started saying to people, no, if you're going to call me to talk about this, I think I should charge for this. Sorry, in mid-conversation, I'd start saying that. Do you know that my calls completely disappeared off the face of the map? I was a person that would be on the phone all day, guys. Every day, you could barely get me off the phone. Then when I started saying, I think I'm going to start charging for this. Sorry, I think I want to do this for a living. I want to coach you on this. My calls disappeared. A lot of the people that I was like, oh my gosh, these are my dear friends, disappeared off the face of the planet. So how did you maneuver that when you started realizing that, wait a minute, I could be charging for this? When was your light bulb moment? And then how did you announce that, listen, I am now charging for this? And what was the response?
There was no light bulb moment. There were kind people. There were people who were saying, listen, I want to pay you for this. I will never forget this guy. It was a guy, actually, Richard. And I remember thinking, maybe he's coming on to me, but he wasn't. He was actually genuinely, he needed help with something, with sales and marketing and whatnot. But then as we were talking, it turned out to be a relationship issue as well. So this is how, maybe this used to happen to you as well. You meet someone for one thing and then they end up telling you about how their husband is beating them up or something like that. So this guy said, you know what, Lebo, I'm going to obviously pay for the lunch because I called you, but here is 500 rands. Next time someone asks you for coffee, you naturally coach. You are a natural coach. So it's never ever going to be a situation where you are not coaching. So I suggest you start charging. I'm like, for real? But I get a certificate. I have certificate this let's go UCT, because I did do some coaching, integral coaching principles like 100 years ago. And it's like, you don't even have to use that. But if you think it will legitimize you, you can use it. But I'm saying to you, with a small flyer, say 500 rands. And I'm like, for real? And he's like, for real. I didn't do it. Other people, and then I would start saying to people, they must donate. Hey, Maramina, if you can thank me, like, like the way Sangomas sometimes do it, like, no, you can thank me all the time. And then people never know what to do with that. And they would say, like, yeah, I'll thank you next time.
No, you're joking.
Oh my God, I'm so happy we are talking about this. I am so happy. But the same thing happened to me. Ultimately, eventually, luckily, I had the social media. I posted and I said, no, I will not be able to do coffees, or can I pick your brain for free? I have a fee if you want to come for coaching or for picking my brain. There is an amount, and it all dried up. It all dried up. And there's how do I call it? It's a natural process. When you are a healer that's not taking up your healing role, if you're a healer or a teacher and you are not stepping up to the universe to say, this is my role and I'm going to take it up, you actually are going to be abused. You're going to meet wounded people left, right, and center who will abuse the gift. But the moment you say, it is my gift and it's costing so much, all the shadow takers will disappear, and then there'll be like space and time for the real people who need your help, because eventually they did come, right? But it is a hell of a painful when suddenly no inbox. Can I please have lunch? Can I please have this? Can we meet? Nothing, because now there's a fee involved. So it's almost like the universe tests you for a bit to say, are you sure about this? Will you stand in your space and hold your own space to not be abused? Because what it does, it cleans up that toxicity of takers, of those vampires. So you get purified a little bit, and then the next client that comes that pays you, it becomes good payment that actually stretches as well. Unlike those ones that would donate for you, you wouldn't even know what you did with that 300 rands, because it was just dirty. It was, I don't know, am I making sense to you?
Listen, you're not just making sense. I don't know if you're seeing my reactions. I'm just silent. I'm like,
yeah, you need to get purified. You can't move from toxicity into, you need the walk, the clean walk. And
it's not even, sorry to interrupt, keep going, Lebo. Like I'm having,
like,
when you have moments where you're just like, this is what my brain was trying to find the words for the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Like literally you have just reminded me, there's a pricing, I don't know if it's on here as a podcast, but I think I put it up as a podcast where I talk about pricing, where I say there's going to be a time where the universe, or as you start to serve, you're being asked to increase your pricing. And when you refuse to do that, the people that you are trying, you may find that you can no longer attract people at a particular price point. And then you'll think there's something wrong with your pricing and you'll lower your pricing.
Yeah.
And then you'll find you can't attract people and you'll probably think it's your pricing again and lower your pricing.
And then lower it again.
But really what it is that you're being asked to increase your pricing. And the only way that you'll get the clients is if you increase your pricing.
Yeah. So yeah.
No, I completely get this. And why I'm just like sitting awestruck is to say thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for this conversation, because you have actually helped me understand so much of what I think my brain was trying to grasp and make sense
Yes.
of the last 18 months of my life, and
Yeah.
what I'm starting to see manifest, and I'm understanding exactly what you're saying.
No, there's always, there will always, we must never, ever, ever question dry periods. I mean, examples are all over nature. Just because there's no leaves in a tree because it's winter, it doesn't mean the tree is dead. It's so
Mhm.
funny. One of the things that I find frustrating about us coaches is that we talk this, but when it
Mhm.
happens to us, we act like we don't know. Like you know, we cry. There's a verse in the Bible, and I love the Zulu version. Like ningakhali ngathi ningabantu abanganalwazi. You know, we cry like we have absolutely no idea. When we all we are asked to do is to just stay in the drought for a little bit longer, just purify. And apparently, when a tree is in winter, when it has no leaves, that's when it gets the strongest. The roots go deeper, more root networks continue. So there's inner work happening literally, such that when the leaves come up, when it's flourish again, it's even better. That's why a tree, I have a apricot tree just in my yard here. Every year apparently produces better and better. So we are deepening, and sometimes our drought periods would be longer. You know, what happened to you, which I don't know if your listeners know, it's one of those, you know, you are deepening, you are being asked to elevate, to go higher. And to a certain extent, I'm going through the same thing, you know.
Mm. And I've been thinking very, very deeply about certain things. Because you know me, I never just let a thing just pass by. I start reflecting on it and just like sitting with it. I'm like, this is very, very interesting.
Yeah.
But my thing that the thing that made me reflect was to say, I feel like in life, if there's certain things that don't happen, you won't be able to shed and create that space and become the person that
Yes.
makes you able to have those conversations at that level,
Yes.
right? And I feel like I could have had, like, it didn't have to be this hard, but I made it this hard because I was refusing to step into certain spaces, to move in a certain manner, you know, to really start doing business in the way that I knew I wanted to do business,
Yeah.
right? Because, oh my gosh, people are going to hate me, I'm going to lose pride. So then the universe is like, let's help the situation along. let's just let's just help this situation along. Because I keep thinking it really didn't have to be that hard because there were some decisions that I delayed in making. And at the end of the day, I ended up making them anyway. And and yesterday, my financial advisor and I were talking about that. She was like, these are decisions that you could have just made a long time ago with certain things, but now you're making them. And I'm like, yeah, years later, hey, could have just made these decisions anyway from the jump and saved myself the heartache. So what you said about the pricing, right, is really true. It's that like, if you are a healer and you're not owning who you are, the universe will basically help the ownership along.
Yes, it will give you the most exploitative people who will take and take and take. I remember then, now that I'm thinking about this, remember when I used to do Mail, where I would get tons and tons of email of inboxes of from there, and I would post, and it was fun until it was fun for everyone except for me because it was work. And I remember posting there with, yeah, I think I'm gonna start charging, blah blah blah. So many people saying, but it's your gift. But it's your gift, it's a spiritual thing. Why would you charge? How would you charge? Which obviously made sense as well. Some were real business questions, but how would you even go about it? Who do you charge? Because it's not like you are answering the questions alone. We are all here. What if I want to be paid for my advice? And I mean, it became just such a mess, which was the universe showing me that you are copying out again. Just stand up and say, I am a coach. if you want to pick my brain, there is a fee, there is a time. So while you want to pick my brain, pick a time and pick a time and a payment method as well, you know, then we can meet. But yeah, that's the whole pricing thing is so fascinating. It's very fascinating.
Wow, I love that we're having this conversation about pricing because it is a huge part of business and entrepreneurship. So then my next question is to say, how did you get to a point, and maybe you're still on the journey, how did you get to the point where you are okay with pricing? Because sometimes I'm okay with it, and then there's other times that where I fear that people will be like, but who does she think she is? And I receive mail like that on my in my inbox. And funny enough, it's been mail, especially where it's like, you're Black and you're South African, how dare you charge like this? Which Black people do you expect to price like this? Not from Black people, by the way, ever. Not one of those has been from Black people. So I've often had to sit with that. And as we're recording this, I received such a mail just 2 weeks ago.
Wow. Saying your price is high.
Pardon?
Saying that you are pricing in dollars and your price is too high.
Yeah, pricing in dollars, you're pricing high and you're Black, and who do you think you are to charge like this? Sometimes I will be referenced and juxtaposed against white coaches in South Africa who are charging a particular fee, and I'll be told that in my emails, right? And other times I will be reminded that, well, you apparently target Black women, and which Black women do you think can afford this? Meanwhile, most of my clients who are Black women have never sent me such emails. They've said, sorry, Van, we can't afford it. You know, I've never. So I've also dealt with hate mail in that sense based on my pricing, which is, it's been something that has gone on with me for years and years, you know?
Yeah.
So that's been very, very interesting. And then so that's why I say I have a very interesting relationship with pricing, because I will feel like it's time to increase my pricing, but then the blowback of that will sometimes be like, in your face. So I wanted to know, how do you currently feel about pricing, and what are some of your fears of your pricing, and how do you deal with them?
Wow. Okay, so I've never had confidence problems. I think this is why I was the first, I don't care who says what, I was one of the first people to start a Facebook group and say, I'm gonna charge for it. How the whole payment and people not paying went about, that's a story for another day. But the point is, once I decide that I am going to go this route, I'm usually very, very decisive. So confidence was the one thing that, no, I'm confident. I know what I'm doing. I can teach for the next 10 years and I would not repeat a lesson. That's how confident I am in my knowledge and in my download and in my skills. So I have confidence in my abilities and the fact that I can actually help someone. But I have a problem with pricing high. And this is a journey that I'm still working. So I don't have a problem with pricing at all anymore. I mean, I have free content. I was telling you when we were having our own conversation for my podcast, that I have about 4 things that are fee-based, subscriptions and fees. Coaching, which people think it's high. I don't think it's high at all. I actually think it should be increasing. I know it's way, I mean, yours is very high because I think you work with a person for differently. You know, I think your coaching is completely different, and people should never ever compare your coaching with ours, you know, which we'll talk about if there's time. But I struggle to increase prices because I am still terrified of a lot of money. I might talk big, that I want zeros in my account, but zeros in my account, in Lebo Pule's experience, has always brought me down. Always. Whenever there was a lot of money, I was going down. It's either someone steals it in the corner of Bree Street and wherever in town, or I lose everything. So I'm surprised there's no emotion as I'm saying this. I thought there'd be an emotion. So my fear is still on a lot of money. I feel like I'm not responsible enough for a lot of money. And that is my truth as a coach, because we have these problems. And this is something that I want to also share, that, you know, just because one knows what they know and one can impart and can teach and can heal and can help, that does not take us out of the equation, because we are human just like you, which is why I need a coach myself, which is why I continue to read, I continue to be a student. And there are lessons that are harder for us, you know, money and pricing and having it and using it is the biggest thorn on my side. I mean, it's the one thing in my entire life, wheel of life, that brings me to my knees, that brings a lot of shame, you know, and like not shame as in, yeah, it brings shame, like deep stuff then, which you made me also realize that, I don't know if you heard yourself when we were talking last time, that it's probably not just my issue. It's probably very ancestral, because it feels deep, man. It feels like, oh, there's a lot of shame around handling money. You understand? So it then spill over to pricing, where I would have the same price for years and years. I mean, I charge 1,500 per session for an hour, but a client will get an hour and a half or sometimes 2 hours. And if I've been seeing you for too long, I would give you a discount. I mean, Dilonyana, it's just nice. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I don't want to bypass this. In other words, I don't want to spiritually bypass it by saying, oh, but I'm fine. This is my truth right now.
Yeah.
And I'm saying it publicly, because I think your podcast is a public space. And I'm also saying it with deep compassion for myself and whatever bloodline. And I'm saying it out loud so that we get some light and get some help, you know?
Yes.
Because I do such incredible work then to be afraid to charge for it. And I want to own that, because the old me would project it to the people that people don't want to pay. Never. People pay. So I do incredible work, and I work very hard to be afraid to charge. So I need to really, really deal with that. And I think this is maybe part one of dealing with it. Just talking to a money coach with your listeners and putting it out there.
Yeah. You know, when we share our stories,
crazy, emotional, this work sucks.
You know, I was saying that when we share our stories, the saying goes, when we share our stories, the shame dies, right? But do you know how many people I've had on the podcast who say they go back after doing a podcast interview with me and they cry?
I'm going to lie down after this, and I'm sitting on my beautiful, I love this couch. I'm always sitting on this couch. After we click goodbye, I'm just going to lie down.
Yeah, but Lebo, you have been so open with us. I have enjoyed this conversation, and you've shared some incredible gems with us. Yeah. What is in the future for you? How are you seeing your work evolve and working with people now?
Oh, I love this question, because I feel like this year is okay. I'm on my 9th year. Please tell your listeners that I do readings. I do numerology reading. So I'm in my 9th year,
Tell
meaning
the listeners about your reading. I'm not getting this out.
so in numerology, a 9th year is a year, it's a completion year. It's a year that everything that you started 9 years ago is coming to an end. Like it's a very low energy year in that you really can't create much. In other words, you can only amplify what you have. So I'm still coaching one-on-one, and I'm happy to say that I have a waiting list now. Yay! Yeah, so if anyone wants to, because I work with a client for about 3 months, and then you can't just coach like it's executive coaching at the corporate. We don't work like that. This is deep stuff. So if I have about 6 over a quarter, I don't take anyone else, and then so that's why people have a waiting list. And so a 9th year then means there isn't much that I can create, but I can only solidify what I have and let go of what's not working, or of what I can't hold on to, for an example. So what's in the future for me? I will be doing more retreats. I feel called to gather more and to do workshops. So a workshop for me is just a full day or a weekend workshop where we are dealing with a specific topic, either healing the heart or mother wound or dark night of the soul, whatever topic that I feel called to talk about. I'll gather with people Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or a longer retreat. So a retreat is usually annual, so it's once a year. And then the workshops will be every 2 months, I feel like. I also feel like I have to have a specific venue so that I'm not always all over the place. There's a venue I eyed in Cape Town, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, where people will gather there. So anyway, to answer the question directly, I feel called to teach more in person, instead of online work. I don't know if that is where your heart is as well. So online stuff, yes, it's fine. It's there. We've conquered that world. People can always go to our online work. But I feel called to stand up and touch people and work with people in person. Maybe that's why I'm being cocooned. Yeah.
You are like, I'm getting this a lot from so many coaches, so many coaches, even coaches from abroad are saying they're having this feeling.
Yeah.
What am I getting called? Like, I just want to work with families.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, I think you need to work with families. Start with one, as you said. Start with one family for a year and just get to know all of them. Oh my God, my heart goes out to you. I'm too sweet for families. They're gonna end up just sucking up. As a sweet one, people suck up a lot to me. Because I'm affirming and I'm kind and I'm whatever, and it's very nice. People love it. So people will end up sucking up, and I'll end up being nice to them, and then the work won't be done.
That is so amazing. Like me as a destroyer, as a destroyer, even sometimes my clients, I can feel they get annoyed with me. They get tired. They like halfway through coaching, you can feel, but man, when we get to the halfway mark, that these people are just like, what?
No, but I think I don't think it's just. I think coaching clients are like that. Halfway mark, they just get tired. Because they think it's a pressing of a button. Clients just think that. Where do I press a button? Yeah.
Oh my God, said there were days. I mean, at the end of her coaching, she was like, I can't believe my life is like night and day. And she confessed to me, she said, by like the second month of our coaching, between the second and the third month, I would just want to get here, turn off the laptop and just be like, this woman can ask her questions to herself. I was like, seriously? She was like, yeah, but I hear that often and people change and shift. But the in-person thing, yes, I'm also feeling it a little bit. Thus, I think I also want to move into families. I feel like Within the South African context, though, I want to do that, but at the same time, the fear level, because you know the dynamics of our families, I'm like, will I get paid enough for that? Well, how will I replenish afterwards? But I can also just imagine once if things work and the shifts that would happen, just like the changes to people and their families and those dynamics can be life altering, right?
And
So,
you know, with families, I mean, there's just so much that we can all do. For an example, you could, there's so much work to do. We'll talk offline. We'll talk offline.
too much. Me right now, guys, I just want to make a disclaimer. I want to work with families around money. Yes, of course, because my work is around family dynamics and trauma and money and all that. But my main focus will be money because I know, Guti, we are layered within South Africa in particular and globally. So I also want to make that offer to people globally. Families want to work with me, fly anywhere, we work there. That would be really, really good. I'll bring my coaching assistant, I'll bring my brand manager, my assistants, everything, and we'll do the work.
Sounds amazing.
But how do people work with you, Lebo? How do they reach out to you? How do they sign up for retreats? How do they do the workshops? Please share with us.
Yes. Okay, so there is one stop. So on all of my social media bios, there's a link tree. I don't know if you have a link tree. So link tree will, there's stretch, if you want to do stretch school, you click on that. If you want to do coaching, so there's links to access me. Please do not WhatsApp me. Because there are systems in place. So I have a newsletter that goes out every Thursday. I promote it on social media, so it's always linked there. You can subscribe to the newsletter. Once you're on the newsletter, everything I do is always there. You can access the podcast. My podcast is subscriber based, so you get a partial episode. And then if you want to listen to the entire conversation, you subscribe to it. Because it's a subscription model and it's a podcast, and podcasts are so saturated, it's 100 Rand a month. And then there's a thing called coaching notes. Let me just explain what that is. So because we've coached so many people over the years, then informally and formally, and we paid for that, and sometimes we were not paid, there's a series of topics that I know that someone who's never ever been to a coach will start with. So a question of boundaries, feeling stuck, having difficult conversations, self-worth, self-esteem, personal power. So what I've done is I've created audio. So I would tell you what the topic is. What is the boundary? Why is it so hard to put a boundary? Give an example and then give you homework. All in audio. You don't have to meet with me one-on-one. You don't even have to bring your homework to me. It's for you. And that's also a subscription model. You can all get it on my link on my social media. And my social media is Lebo Pule's work. Don't go to that other Lebo Pule. Don't go to my personal wall. I'm no longer that person. Yeah, that is that is old me. I don't even know what I would say if I were to go to that wall. I've changed so much. So I'm on Lebo Pule's work, either on Instagram or Facebook. If you love my little videos, you can go to TikTok. I have so many followers on TikTok. I do video clips from Stretch School. People love them. We find them bizarre. People find chakras woo. Can you believe it? Chakras are so basic for us.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Lebo, thank you for spending time with us. I know everybody has gotten so much. I've gotten so much from this interview. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us.
Thank you. You know, this is a full circle moment because the first time we spoke about money, you and I, or my money journey, was literally 10 years ago. It was 2014. So it's 2024, and I did not realize that I needed to talk about this. Because who else can I talk like this to, you know? Thank you for allowing me to offload and to share and to hear myself. Because sometimes you don't know what's going on until you say it, which is why coaching works, you know, because it's like, is this still there? So thank you for allowing me space.
Thank you. And I know, Money Magicians, you guys have gotten so much from this. Lebo, did you have one last thing to say?
Yeah, no, I wanted to say that I'm going to see you in Cape Town.
Okay, awesome. Guys, we'll see you in the next episode. I really think re-listen to this episode. We went so deep and I just loved this podcast episode. And let us know your thoughts in the comment section. If you are loving the Money Magic podcast, give it a 5-star review on Apple, on Spotify. Please just show it some love and then start spreading the word to others so that I can get even more interesting and exciting guests as the podcast grows. I love talking to people about their money journey. Have a fantastic day further. Cheers.